Do you agree? I'm so mad. Oh my god, just thinking about it just makes me so mad.
Calm down.
Today we're going to talk about something that me and my sister are both very, very passionate about. In case you didn't know, Disney recently came out with a live-action remake of Mulan. So basically Mulan tells the story of a girl who enlisted in the army to substitute for her father to fight in the war, and she disguised herself as a guy and no one knew she was a guy, and then she eventually won the war along with her fellow soldiers, and then she came home. So that was supposed to be the story. And Disney decided to do a remake of the really successful animation that they had years ago. And as we've known with Disney live action remakes, they have not been good. For some reason, I don't know why, I was too young, too naive, like I thought that this remake would be good. But then, I guess like we should first talk about maybe the experience of watching the film. So basically last Friday, I was very excited, very hyped because Mulan came out. And so me, a Chinese person, I sat down in front of the TV along with my Chinese sister and my Chinese parents, and we were so excited to watch
this film about a Chinese girl.
Yeah, we were so excited to watch this Disney film about a Chinese character. And then we were like, okay, let's turn on the Chinese subtitles because it's just like easier that way for everyone. But then Disney did not include Chinese subtitles. Why would you not include Chinese subtitles? Like, if you think with your toe, like you would think that you should probably have Chinese subtitles for a film about Chinese people. And they also said that, oh, we're trying to, you know, stay authentic to Chinese culture. We want people in China to appreciate it. Okay, then why isn't there Chinese subtitle? I'm so mad about that. I feel like that's just so inconsiderate on their part.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, like what? Like who, like...
Idea comes out.
I just feel like, isn't it so obvious that you would have Mandarin subtitles? But anyway, now let's like move into the actual content of the film. So we're going to talk about it from several different perspectives. In terms of the plot, I think the biggest issue that Serena and I have with the plot is the inclusion of qi. And like as Chinese people, we don't even understand what qi means. Like what is it?
It just feels like Star Wars. I felt like I was watching Star Wars and Frozen at the same time.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah, so we don't know what the qi is, and like, okay, it's like, it's fine if you have qi, but then I feel like that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the entire story, because Mulan's supposed to be this like ordinary girl who does extraordinary things. Like, she's not supposed to be the chosen one, and if she's the chosen one, then what's the point of this movie then? In the original poem of the story, she's just this regular girl who decided that she wants to help out her dad. Yeah. And then she like went to fight in the army, and then she didn't reveal her identity to anyone, and then she came home, and then she's back to being an ordinary girl. But now like she accomplished something so significant. Yeah, so I think the qi thing just makes her less special.
Yeah, the qi and the phoenix, that looks like a ribbon.
Yeah, the phoenix straight up looked like a kite. The phoenix was straight up a kite. Like, it looked so plasticky and cheap. And I was just like, I don't think a phoenix is supposed to look this ugly. And I think another thing is that, I guess just from like the film's perspective, I think the story moved on way too quickly. Like, there was the character development just seemed very jumpy to me. It just felt like everything was happening only because you had to move on the plot, not because it's happening naturally and we're actually seeing these characters going through a change, but it's more like, okay, I think it's time for her to, you know, grow up. And then Gong Li's character shows up, you know, you need to like reveal your true self. And then Mulan's like, oh, you're right. And then she reveals her true self. And then after Mulan like revealed her true self, she was expelled, right? And then she was just like wandering around in the mountains. And then Gong Li showed up again. And then she's like, wait, 我忘了你刚说什么
Lee was like, you won't be accepted, so join me.
Oh yeah, and then Mulan was like, no. No. Okay, and then so Mulan's like, I'm gonna go back and because I need to be loyal to my country or whatever. And then she went back, and then 你说吧.
Oh, and then 那个甄子丹 was like, the general, he was like, no, we don't accept you. And then Hong Kui was like, you would believe Hua Jun, so why is Mulan any different? And then Jiang Jun was like, makes sense.
You're right.
Okay,
oh,
I'll take you with.
Wait, that never occurred to me before. Yeah. Things are just like happening, and they're like, okay, I guess this is happening. We're moving on, and it's just like, okay. And also, I just want to say that this movie literally had the perfect opportunity to show off Chinese culture, like the sword fights or like kung fu or whatever, but it didn't. Like
the sword fights was just like clack clack and then it's gone.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, but I think we were both looking for like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon level type of sword fight. But then there wasn't. It was just like very simple, very ordinary action movie. Also, another funny thing about the movie, I think, okay, so when it happened, Serena and I both laughed. It was when Gong Li's character died. When I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, wait, Gong Li's storyline is actually really clever, and I think it's a perfect parallel to Mulan's character arc. So I was really excited to see the two parallel lines to eventually intersect. Gong Li's character just died so suddenly.
Yeah, it's like she's strong enough to wipe out the whole Roran army, but she gets killed by a freaking arrow.
Yeah. And the last thing I just want to point out is in the final culminating scene where Mulan, the emperor, and by the way, the emperor was Jet Li. I don't think we recognized it at all. Like the costume was kind of whack. But anyway, Bori Khan, the three of them were fighting in the end. Like they, out of all the places, they chose a construction site. A freaking construction site. Like I feel like it would have been so much better if they did it on the roof of the palace, like the animation. Yeah. I feel like that would showcase, you know, like Chinese architecture, but then they chose a construction site. And basically, okay, a Chinese audience said, 最后两国最高领导人在建筑工地约架，皇帝说了，柔然人把他绑起来，还在他面前磨刀，用磨刀磨出来的火花刺他。
Like, if he just killed the emperor at that time,
it would have been fine.
Yeah, I think he would have been the emperor.
But he was just being petty and immature, and he thinks he looks cool by doing the thing with a knife. Like, okay. Okay, next we're gonna talk about costume and makeup. Do you have anything to say about that?
In the original poem about Mulan, there's a line that says 对镜贴花黄, and that line means that you're basically cutting out like a little paper and then you're sticking it onto your face, like the pattern on her forehead, but then they painted it on, so that was like a huge inaccuracy. And also, why is her forehead yellow? Her makeup looks like it's from the Tang Dynasty.
Yeah. But then they're not in the Tang Dynasty. Yeah. So I don't know where that came from. I think that's the thing with Mulan. I think it was just very jarring for me to see in the very beginning because everything is so colorful. It's so Disney. It's so like classic, like it's like what you would see in Arendelle. The costume and the set design of Mulan just reminded me and Serena of those Chinese web series that's set in the ancient times, because these web series don't have a lot of funding, so it's a lot of
low quality.
Yeah, so like a lot of their costume are not as accurate, and they're just like very colorful, like pink, orange, like really tacky colors. Like that's what Mulan reminded me of. I know they definitely like did a lot of research on Chinese culture and history, but it still very much feels like it's a Western film trying to project what they think China is supposed to look like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like the Western version of what China is.
Yeah. I know you're not trying to make a documentary or like a historical period drama, and I know like the team behind Mulan has said that they're not putting that much emphasis on historical accuracy, but I just want to ask, why are you not putting emphasis on historical accuracy? Like, I feel like if you want to represent a culture accurately, like, I feel like that's the least you can do. So like, I feel like these details do matter, and it shows how much you care and how much you respect the other culture, because if you're gonna say that this film belongs to China, then you better, you know, respect the history of the country. Yeah, so after we watched the film, the credits started rolling, I was like, hold up. The crew sounds just a little bit not Asian. And I think that's a problem. Yeah. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah, because, okay, yeah, we get it, the cast is Asian, because obviously that's a bare minimum. Like, this is a story about Chinese people, like, obviously you're gonna hire Chinese actors. But then the crew were mostly white. And there are actually a lot of articles on it complaining about how the crew behind Mulan is so white. Like, I feel like the department heads of this movie should not be white, or I feel like they should at least come from a Chinese background, or was born in China, or is Chinese and whatever, because you know, like, no matter how much research you can do on this, if you had no previous experience or contact with this culture, like, I doubt you can bring something like so personal to life just based on some research that you do for this film. And I'm not like doubting their ability. I trust that they're definitely skilled at their job. They're definitely great at what they do, and that is why Disney would even put them on. But I think it's just disappointing that Disney didn't even make the effort to try to bring in more Asian people or even Chinese people on the crew, because I think, yes, the cast is important, but I think crew is also really what makes the film happen, because these are the people who are really doing the behind the scenes planning for the film, and they're the people who actually breathe life into this film. So I think it's really important to me, you know, as a Chinese American audience, that they are Chinese or at least have a Chinese background. I think the reason that Disney didn't bring on that many Chinese people onto the crew, like, for one, it could just be lack of attention. They just didn't care enough. And second, I think it's just that they didn't want to take too big of a creative risk.
Why is bringing on Chinese people on the team a creative risk? 你要讲说什么 films？
不是，你先让我听我说完。就是我的 point 就是我感觉 Disney 就是他们不愿意把就是比如说中国人放到这个 set 上面，他们不能把这个电影做得太中国，你懂什么意思吗？他们得做得够美国、够国际化，这样全世界的人才会愿意去看。但是我 disagree， 因为我觉得其实就这种特别，比如说 cultural 或者这种 foreign film 在美国其实是有市场的，就是观众没那么傻，好吗？只要是个好的故事，只要是 personal 的 ，if it comes from like a very genuine place， 就是 people will resonate with it。像 Parasite， 全韩文，然后就是大家就是要看 subtitle， 大家一样能接受。The Farewell 去年是差不多过一半，里面一半都是在讲中文，但是大家还是能接受，就是不管你是哪个 race 哪个 background， 你看了之后都会 resonate， 都会觉得很感人。所以就是 it's all about 就是 making sure 你的这个 film is authentic， 而不是说我一定要去故意就是 cater to
yeah, that was a really good explanation.
Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna use that then. I'm just gonna put in subtitles for what I just said. Okay? Oh my god, normalize subtitles. Okay. Okay. Yeah, do you agree? I'm so mad. Oh my god, just thinking about it just makes me so mad.
Calm down.
Okay, so there's this interesting observation that I want to make. There has been a lot of Asian American films recently, and they're all like pretty quality films and have done well in the US, but they did not do as well in the Chinese market. Like they still got pretty decent reviews, but it's not like people are raving about it or think it's super good, and a lot of people are even criticizing them for presenting like a fake Chinese image or not being authentic enough, because it is the Chinese American experience versus the Chinese experience. So there's definitely a disconnect there, because I think people in China have not yet fully accepted or embraced the immigrant experience or the experience of Chinese people living in the US. And so that's why they think these films are not portraying the truest or most authentic story of China.
Chinese Americans can never fully understand what the experience is like living in China and growing up in China, and the people in China can't really understand the Chinese American experience as well, because they grew up under such different circumstances.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just like two different set of experiences, and I think it'll be interesting to see how perhaps maybe film can bring these two experiences together in the future, and hopefully people will be more understanding of each other. In the end, I just want to say that it is not an easy task to make Mulan, but I don't think we should lower our standards. Like, I think it's still like...
It's valid.
Yeah, it's valid. It's like the bare minimum we can do to do all the research you need to do to present like the most authentic story possible. Like, if you're gonna try to make money off of my culture, you better do it right. But I'm glad that we're having these conversations and discussions online with people talking about it in YouTube videos and leaving reviews and things like that. I think these are really fruitful for producing better stories in the future. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave your comments below on what you thought of Mulan, because I think we would love to hear what you guys have to say. Let's just continue this conversation. Yeah.
Subscribe!
Subscribe!
Good job!
In the end, I just want to say, take some time
laughing.
But she actually just doesn't. Oh my god, I choked on my own saliva. Okay, 最后一句了，最后一句了。那个